The moon of Varelnine bled smoke and fire as humanity's last defense line fell. The sky, once glittered with orbital stations, now wept debris. Turrets sparked from ruptured domes. Engines screamed overhead. Through cracked visors and comes Captain Rhea Solari, staggered across a field of the dead, her rifle empty, her squad gone. She was alone. Crimson light flared from above as a Krith Dominion gunship descended, casting an inhuman shadow across the battlefield. Its metallic skin pulsed with biocircuit veins, and its engines hummed like a beast inhaling its next meal. Rhea ducked into the husk of a fallen mech, her heart pounding so loud it drowned the ringing in her ears. One leg barely responded. Her side was scorched, ribs likely broken, but her eyes still burned with fury. A voice crackled in her helmet, fractured, panicked. Ardent command is gone. Varel's lost. If you're hearing this, get out, get silence. She tossed the helmet aside, and then he landed. Through a haze of smoke, a towering figure dropped from the gunship. 7 feet tall, armor blacker than void, etched with the Krith Dominion's emblem spirals of jagged light, like a star being torn apart. His plasma halberd sparked to life. Vec Tauron, the Krith elite, genetically perfected, emotions suppressed. Rumors said he'd never spared a soul, not even among his own. Rhea limped from the wreckage, a shard of steel clenched in her fist like a dagger. Her arm trembled, but her eyes didn't flinch. Do it, she spat. Kill me, just make it quick. Vec tilted his head. No strike came. He took one step forward, then another. His weapon powered down with a mechanical hiss. His gazy sea and alien locked onto hers through his visor. You're not afraid, he said. Rhea laughed bitterly. I have seen too much to be. Circled her slowly. No fear, no haste. Like a hunter studying a wounded animal, unsure why it still breathed. You're broken, he murmured, and yet you stand. Because I still have something left to lose, she hissed. A gust of wind swept burning ash between them. The two stood motionless in the middle of a ruined world, one refusing to kneel, the other refusing to kill. Then his voice again, lower this time, like something cracking beneath pressure. They told us humans die easy. That you cry, beg, shatter, under pain. Her voice broke, and they told us you don't feel a damn thing. A long silence passed, and then, with a slow, precise movement, Vec removed his helmet. Rhea's breath caught. He was young, no older than her, eyes like violet fire, and something else. Regret. A scar ran down the side of his jaw, raw and unhealed. He looked at her not as an enemy, but like someone trying to recognize a part of himself he never knew existed. I don't know what this feeling is, he said. She took a step forward, her legs threatening to give. Then, let me teach you. But before he could respond, a communit on his belt flared. Tauron, orders changed. She is to be taken alive. Vec stared at her one last time. Then he raised a hand. A drone dropped behind her. Paralysis dart. Sharp hiss. Her body went limp before she could scream. As she collapsed. Vision dimming. She saw him kneeling beside her, gently pulling the shard from her hand. Not to disarm her, but almost like it meant something. Darkness claimed her, but not before she heard him whisper. I want to know why you fight like this, and what it is I feel when I look at you. Consciousness returned like drowning in glass shards of light, and pain stabbing into her brain. Captain Rhea Solari gasped awake. Her breath shallow, her limbs numb. She was no longer on Varelnine. Gone were the shattered buildings, the burning sky. Now she floated weightless in a cocoon of alien technologists, like metallic, alive, a Krith stasis cell. The walls throbbed like veins. Lights pulsed in slow, rhythmic beats, as if the chamber breathed around her. Her wrists and ankles were suspended in translucent restraints. A biocable was fused to her temple, humming faintly there in my head. Her heart thundered as the memory came rushing back. Vec Tauron, his face, his hesitation, his voice, unarmored. Now, she was a prisoner in the belly of a Dominion dreadnought, the Vorthal. A hiss echoed from above. The walls peeled open like petals, and he stepped in. No helmet, no weapons. Just Vec, tall and silent, his violet eyes unreadable. I didn't want to bring you here like this, he said, voice low. She spat at him, but the glob drifted midair in z. Then why am I chained to a machine? You're not, he replied. You're connected. He reached to a console. With a thought, the restraints dissolved. Rhea's body collapsed gently to the floor of the chamber. Gravity returned, in a slow, humming pulse. Her legs buckled, but he caught her. She shoved him away instantly, crawling to the far wall, eyes burning. You want to dissect me? Get in line. Vec didn't move. I've already seen inside you. Her blood froze. He gestured toward the interface. Holograms shimmered scenes from her memories. Her brother's death during the siege of the panicked cries of civilians at the Riverline massacre. Her final mission briefing before Varelnine, standing alone in a room of empty chairs. He'd been inside her head. You had no right, she growled, fury shaking her voice. I needed to know why you kept standing when everything said to fall, because that's what humans do, she roared. We break and stand again. You wouldn't understand. I'm trying to, he said softly. She turned away, breath ragged. You're not supposed to feel. You're bred to be machines. Something in me is changing, he admitted, and it began the moment I looked into your eyes. He walked toward her slowly, cautiously, as if approaching a wounded animal he didn't want to scare off. You think pain makes you weak, he said, but I saw the truth. He tapped his temple. In here, you hide behind fury, Rhea, not to scare others, to protect what's still human inside. For a long moment, she didn't speak. The air between them thickened with silence. Finally, she looked up. You saw everything, she said quietly, but I don't know who you are. Vex stepped forward again and this time, removed the chest plate of his armor. Underneath, his torso was laced with cybernetic scar tissue brands from obedience implants, surgical clamps, and a spiraling burn mark where his Dominion control chip had once been. They tried to erase who I was, he said. I'm not sure who's left. He knelt beside her, not as a captor, but as a man asking to be seen. I want to understand why you fight, even when it hurts. Show me how to feel it. She studied him, half machine, half mystery. And then, slowly, she reached out and touched the edge of one of his scars, not in pity, but in recognition. It wasn't a cell, it was a sanctuary, yet somehow, that made it worse. Captain Rhea Solari stood at the edge of an impossible grove. Trees with translucent trunks shimmered in pinks and violets. The air was thick with the scent of blooming alien. Vines water floated in spherical orbs, drifting gently through the air, like jellyfish. A dome of crystal glass arched above her, revealing stars beyond a soft artificial night sky. This was no battlefield, it was a Krith meditation dome, Gronot built on the edge of the Dominion Dreadnought's command spine. Vec Talron stood in the center of the garden, seated cross-legged atop a stone platform. His armor lay behind him, no weapons. His eyes were closed, body still. Rhea watched from behind a twisted tree. She still didn't understand why he'd brought her here instead of another interrogation chamber, or worse. The guards hadn't restrained her, no threats, no orders. She could grab a rock, crack his skull open, and run. But something about the quiet made her hesitate. This place wasn't designed for war, it was designed for peace. Do you ever sleep? She called. Vec's eyes opened. I don't dream, so I meditate instead. Rhea stepped out into the soft moss, cautious. That's a fancy word for brooding. He tilted his head, amused. You think I'm brooding? You brought your prisoner to a flower garden and asked her to talk about emotions. You tell me. He chuckled. It was faint, like he didn't quite understand how to do it properly. Rhea sat across from him. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence was intense. It was just unknown. You said you're changing, she said quietly, but you're Krith. You're bred to obey, to kill. Why now? Vec looked at his hands card. He flexed it. I wasn't supposed to look into your memories, he admitted. They were supposed to extract tactical value, patterns, weaknesses. He paused, searching for words. But I didn't find tactics. I found grief. And something in me responded. He met her eyes. I don't know what that means, but I know I don't want to kill you anymore. Rhea studied him. The war had taken everything from her, her team, her world, her future. But now, here she sat on the living heart of an enemy dreadnought talking to the man who was supposed to end her. I should hate you, she said. I understand. I don't. She leaned forward. You said you don't dream, but if you did, what would you see? Vec went silent. The vines around them shifted, subtly, sensing emotional changes in the room. Finally, he whispered, I think I would see myself standing in sunlight. Without orders, without chains. Rhea nodded slowly. You want freedom, don't all humans? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. No, some of us just want revenge. They sat there for a long time. Two ghosts of opposite wars, bound not by treaties but by the shared ruins inside them. Then gently Vex said, you still wear your pain like armor. I can feel it, and you still hide yours behind logic, she replied. A small, almost imperceptible nod. Then, let's try something impossible, he said. For the next hour, no lies, no walls, just truth. Rhea laughed once, sharp and cold truth. From a Krith he reached forward and placed his open hand on the moss between them. You start? She stared at it, and after a long pause, she reached back. Their fingers didn't touch, but they were close enough to feel the warmth. Peace is always the most fragile thing in war, and someone had just shattered it. The first explosion didn't sound like an attack. It was distant, muted by the dome's artificial environment. A low rumble, like the groan of something ancient, waking up. Captain Rhea Solari stood tense. Across from her, Vec Talron had already risen, expression sharp. Head tilted to listen. A second explosion, boom, closer and violent. The trees around them shuddered. The zero-gravity water orbs burst into mist. Lights blinked red along the curved walls of the meditation chamber. Alarm tones wailed. Vec's voice was calm, but urgent. That wasn't a Krith detonation pattern. Rya's instincts screamed. That was ardent. My people. An impact rocked the dome. Metal screamed. The trees erupted into flame. A breach opened high above, sucking air and burning debris into space. The protective barrier crackled and flickered, and from the breach they came. 3 figures in reinforced ardent stealth armor dove through the dome's opening. Tactical visors glinting. Human soldiers, her squad, or what was left of it. The leader barked into comes. Target in sight. She's alive, and with the enemy. Rhea froze. She wanted to shout, to explain, but their rifles were already raised aimed at Vek. No. They'll kill him. They think he's controlling me. She moved, instinctively, stepping between the rifles and Vek's body. Stand down, she screamed. He's not the enemy. The first shot rang out. Vek tackled her from behind, pulling her down just in time. The plasma bolt seared past where her skull had been a second before. He rolled them both into the roots of a burning tree, shielding her body with his. Rhea gasped, "Don't kill them. They're my people, and they're trying to kill you," he growled. Another soldier landed beside the tree and raised his weapon. Vek moved like a phantom, striking the barrel aside, sweeping the man's legs, then disarming him in a blur of motion. But he didn't kill. He only stood over the downed soldier, eyes glowing, and said, "I won't spill human blood unless she commands it." Rhea pulled herself upright, facing her squad leader. Her voice was raw with urgency. "I went willingly. He's not our enemy anymore." The woman, leading the squad lieutenant, Coral, looked at her with disgust. "You've been compromised. Rhea, brainwashed. We're pulling you out by force if we have to." Vek stepped forward again. "You touch her, you'll what?" Cora snapped. "You'll save the prisoner you were ordered to dissect." Rhea stepped between them once more. Her voice trembled, but she didn't back down. "I chose to stay, because I saw the truth, and I saw him." Another shot fired. This one didn't come from Cora. It came from a drone overhead. Dominion pattern. Rogue. It exploded in the trees. The blast threw them all back. Vines caught fire. Bark burned. Rhea's ears rang. She opened her eyes to see Vek hunched over her against smoke rising from his shoulder where shrapnel had torn through his flesh. Still shielding her. Always shielding her. And through the smoke. Cora finally paused. Stared at the scene. Stared at him, not striking, not attacking, just protecting. Rhea crawled to her knees. Blood trickled from her lip. "I fought for Earth," she said hoarsely. "He was built for war. But today, I saw more humanity in him than in half the command who gave our orders." Cora didn't lower her weapon, but her finger slipped from the trigger. "We don't know what this is," she said, "but it's not protocol." "No," Rhea whispered, helping Vek to his feet. "It's something more dangerous." She looked at Vek's eyes, burning. "It's trust." Earth was supposed to be silent, but silence, Rhea realized, had a sound. The shuttle landed in a wasteland of twisted steel and ash. Earth's sky was darker than she remembered, choked with remnants of orbital debris and storm patterns altered by centuries of war. Concrete bones of ancient cities jutted from the soil like jagged teeth. The wind howled through crumbled towers, carrying with it the ghosts of what was lost. Captain Rhea Solari stepped onto the ground like a trespasser returning to her own grave. Behind her, Vek Talron emerged from the transport, his boots crunching over rusted metal. He paused and looked around, head tilted, senses alert. It was the first time he'd ever set foot on humanity's birthplace. He didn't speak. Neither did she, not yet. Ahead lay a hidden vault embedded beneath the remains of old Geneva United Earth Coalition bunker, rumored to house the last unedited archives from the war's first years. If there was truth left in the galaxy, it was buried here. They entered the ruin cautiously. The vault door was scorched but intact. Rhea keyed in the ancient override code passed down through whispers, erased from records. It responded with a deep hiss, revealing a frozen hallway still humming with backup power. The temperature dropped. Lights flickered, and then they found it. The war terminal. A crystalline column rose in the center of the chamber. As Rhea approached, the console responded to her biometrics. Holographic windows bloomed around her in the cold air accords communications. Black box fragments. A single classified log blinked red at the center. Project Prometheus declassify. She hesitated. Vek stood behind her, silent. Her hand trembled as it reached forward. "Yes." The hologram ignited. Admiral Raston's face appeared. Her old mentor, younger, harder, unforgiving, to command. Operation Prometheus begins. Covert sabotage of Dominion. Biovault successful. Our strike team released a pathogen tailored to force full-scale retaliation. Objective: manufacture unity through shared vengeance. Casualties acceptable. Timeline: accelerated galactic war within 5 cycles. Rhea staggered back. No. Another log appeared, this time a transmission from the original Krith leadership. Their betrayal is confirmed. Human interference escalated the war. Suppression protocols enacted. Emotional inhibitors reinforced. This is what they forced us to become. She fell to her knees. Everything the invasion of VRL-9, the death of her brother, the loss of millions had been born from a calculated lie. Her people had struck first. On purpose. And Krith had been forced into violence. Vek slowly stepped beside her. His voice was almost a whisper. I always believed I was born broken. That something inside me never worked right. But maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe I was never supposed to be whole. Rhea looked up at him through tears. They built a lie so strong it became our truth, and we killed for it. She reached out and grabbed his hand, flesh and metal, warm and shaken. I'm sorry, she said, barely more than a breath. He sank to his knees beside her. I hated you for what I thought you were, he said. Now, I hate them. For what they turned us into. They knelt there together, mid the ashes of Earth's sinsu, enemies betrayed by the same hand. The only sound was the wind through the ruins above. Then Vex spoke again. No command can unwrite what we know now. So what do we do with it? Rhea stood slowly. We show it to everyone, and let the galaxy decide what justice means. He looked up at her, eyes heavy, voice low. Even if they kill us for it. She gave a broken smile, especially then. Storms howled across Earth's ruined skyline. But neither of them moved from the rooftop. It wasn't the wind that made them cold. It was everything they'd just learned. Rain fell in heavy sheets, hammering the concrete slab where Rhea Solari and Vec Talron stood alone. The city below Ents Geneva was a labyrinth of rusted towers and skeletal remains. Lightning tore through the sky in broken veins. Above them, distant flashes from warships shimmered through the clouds like ghosts. They hadn't spoken in an hour. The truth they uncovered had silenced even their grief. Rhea sat on the edge of the rooftop, knees drawn to her chest, soaked to the bone. Her breath fogged in the air, but she didn't shiver. Her eyes were locked on the skyline and blinking. Vex stood behind her, helmet clutched in one hand. The other rested on the scarred plate of his chest armor, fingers digging into it as if he could pull out what still haunted him. This is where my brother died, Rhea said suddenly, voice cracking. Vex turned. He was 17. First deployment. I told him to stay behind. She let out a broken laugh. He wanted to impress me. I came back to find him buried under a collapsed railgun. She looked up at Vec, and I carried that guilt into every battle after. Like if I bled enough, it would make up for what I couldn't save. Vec slowly approached, the storm soaking his skin, his cybernetic scars gleaming under the rain. I was made in a birthing chamber, he said. No mother, no name, just a designation. Talron, it means spear without a soul. He knelt. Beside her, they told me emotions were weakness. That regret was a virus. But after I saw your memories, he pressed a hand to his chest. It started spreading. I thought it was breaking me, but now I wonder. Maybe I was infected with something else. She looked into his eyes, humanity. Their faces were close now. Rain traced their cheeks. Like tears, neither had cried. She reached forward slowly and undid the latches on his chestplate. Vec didn't stop her. He let the armor fall, revealing the twisted latticework of cybernetic implants, surgical grafts, and a raw circular scar where the Dominion's obedience chip had once pulsed. I've always hidden this, he said, because it wasn't mine. It belonged to what they made me. Rhea reached to her side and lifted her soaked jacket. Tattooed across her ribs were names, dozens of them. Tiny, clean, faded. My squad. Every one of them. She traced a finger across the ink. I told myself remembering them kept me strong, but really, it just kept me angry. They stared at one another, scarred, soaked, exposed. Then Vec whispered, you hate what this war turned you into, and you hate that it never lets you become more. Their hands met, not in passion, not in strategy, but in understanding. They leaned forward until their foreheads touched, breath mixing with rain. I should fear you, she said. I should obey the command to kill you, he replied. Then why are we still here? Because when I look at you, his voice broke. I finally feel like I exist. She closed her eyes, and when I look at you I see someone who never had a choice. For the first time in both their lives, neither wore armor. And neither wanted it back. The galaxy wasn't ready, but they didn't ask for permission. Rhea Solari stood inside the Dominion's deep space, Rhea cathedral-sized orbital network station that pulsed with golden data veins. Her face was hollow-lit by the glow of the upload screen. Beside her, Vec Talron moved with fluid precision, disabling surveillance nodes, rerouting authority locks. His claws sparked as they carved through security panels. Above them, ships drifted like predators. They had minutes, maybe less, before someone noticed the breach. This signal goes live, Rhea said, and we put a target on every inch of our skin. Vec didn't look up. Then we bleed where everyone can see. The terminal pinged. Project Prometheus, global transmission, SDANDBYSHI, inserted the encrypted data, core the one they'd nearly died recovering beneath Geneva. Ashes dotted clicked into place. The countdown began. 10 seconds. Behind them, klaxons began to scream. Dominion patrols had breached the outer shell. Red lights bathed the chamber like blood. Vec drew his pulse blade. They're coming. Rhea kept her hand steady on the activation pad. Let them. 5 seconds. Door locks hissed. A Dominion commander stepped through, flanked by mechs, eyes glowing with augmented fury. You betray your kind, Captain Turn it off. Rhea stood firm. No, I betray only the lie. 2 seconds. She looked at Vek. He nodded. Broadcast engaged. The world shook in every Dominion world. Every Krith enclave, every neutral station, every military fleet screens blinked alive. The old war logs played unfiltered. The human sabotage that started it all. The manipulated retaliations, the forced emotional suppression of an entire species, the betrayal, and finally, two figures, one human, one Dominion standing, side by side. Stripped of rank, stripped of armor, telling the truth. They turned us into monsters for peace they never intended to keep. Rhea's voice rang out. But peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from the truth. Vec's voice followed. The feed ended with one line burned into every screen. The war was built on a lie. Inside the relay, the Dominion commander's voice broke the silence. You've doomed everything. Vec turned slowly, blade humming. No, we gave it a chance. They fought then not to win, but to survive long enough for the truth to spread. Vec moved like a storm, disarming, wounding, never killing. Every blow was deliberate restraint. The symbol he had become could not be soaked in blood now. Rhea covered the uplink, driving back a mech with a stolen plasma rifle. Smoke filled the relay chamber. Sparks rained like fireflies. Then a second signal burst across the network. A Krith war admiral had defected. She broadcast her own message, confirming the emotional suppression protocols, the truth of the genocide, and the orders that erased empathy from her kind. Another screen lit up. A human general resigned publicly, shaming the United Command. Another, soldiers on both sides laying down arms, but also protests, riots, mutinies. The galaxy had been a bomb waiting to go off. Rhea and Vec had simply lit the fuse. Inside the relay, battered and bruised, they stared out the viewport as emergency beacons lit the stars like a funeral pyre. This doesn't mean peace, Vec whispered. No, Rhea said, but it means choice. For the first time, ships were converging on their location. Now. No way out. No reinforcements. No backup. My neither of them ran. They simply stood. Two warriors made enemies by lies, facing the galaxy with truth in their veins and fire in their eyes. The sky was burning. Every major news feed across the Orion Arm was locked for streaming the siege of Relay Station E7X, where two traitors to heroes Rhea Solari and Vec Tauren made their final stand. Civilians tuned in. Soldiers froze. Mid-march. Even fleet admirals paused their war plans, because truth was on fire, and the galaxy was finally watching. Inside the relay's glass observation deck, Vec knelt beside Rhea, who was bleeding badly from a plasma graze to her side. Her face was pale, but her voice was iron. They'll breach the core chamber in minutes. Vec's claws twitched. Then we buy the galaxy a few more. But it wasn't just a few anymore. Since the transmission, resistance cells had erupted across 20 Dominion worlds. Human and Krith defectors began talking. Some were fighting. Others were laying down arms. The whole war was splintering. But this relay was where the news story began, and everyone knew it. Rhea coughed, blood on her glove. It's poetic, isn't it? We were bred to kill each other, and we're going to die defending the truth. Vec looked at her not as an enemy, not as an ally, but as the only real thing he'd ever known. No, he said, we're not dying here. He pulled her to her feet. The Dominion's elite strike team stormed the deck. 10 of them. Full armor. Full kill mode. Vec stepped forward, eyes burning, body low. Rhea leaned on the console, pistol in one hand, pain in the other. The firefight was brutal. Fast sparks and smoke and screams. One by one, the strike team fell not just from firepower, but hesitation, because some of them had seen the truth. Some had watched the transmission and realized they were the villains. Now. In the end, only one soldier remained, a young Krith, male shaking, weapon raised, targeting Vec. I was trained to kill anything that questions the code, the soldier said. Vek dropped his weapon. And what does your soul say? The Krith hesitated. Then powered down his rifle. Outside, the Dominion fleet hovered above the station. Human warships waited beyond them, neither side moving, waiting for orders that no longer made sense. A single broadcast channel opened. Earth and Krithon. Command had agreed to a ceasefire, not peace. Not yet, but a silence filled with possibility. Rhea slumped beside Vec near the relay's shattered edge, the vacuum shield barely holding. Fires burned behind them. Below, the Earth turned slowly, still wounded, still alive. You think this'll hold? She asked, voice faint. Vec stared at the stars. No. Then what did we win? He looked at her. We didn't win. We began. That's harder. She smiled weakly. You really are infected with humanity. And you. He brushed a hand across her brow. You have Krith courage in your blood now. The station groaned beneath them. Escape pods gone. Communications jammed. Their bodies failing. But then a shadow cut across the window. A freighter, a civilian ship. It hailed them. This is the freighter, Lucen's Mercy. We saw the stream. We're not leaving you. Vec's eyes widened. Rhea whispered. Somebody came back. 2 days later, the galaxy changed. War tribunals began. Statues fell. Treaties formed. Shaky, fragile, but real. And archived in every galactic library. Taught in every school. was a new story, not of victory, but of two warriors, who laid down their swords not because they lost but because they finally saw one another.